Hello, we are Jarod and Jason Hung. This is our CGT 412 final presentation. Um, we created a 2D web game named Trapped Online for our client PBJ Learning. We're going to get into it and tell you what it's all about. So I'm Jarod Ball. My main role was asset creation and script writing.
And my name is Jason Hong. My main role is game design and programming.
So I'm going to go ahead and play a demo of the first part of our game and talk about our game while it plays. So Trapped Online is like I said, 2D web-based game made to complement our client PBJ Learning's pre-existing VR game. The game's main purpose is to educate on the dangers of human trafficking. Um, our game takes place before their game. You play through the eyes of the main character, Lisa. The game itself is designed as gameplay through a simulated phone. So you read and progress the story by sending and receiving texts, reading notepad entries, reading social media posts, and ultimately the player makes choices along the way that affect the outcome, affect the messages you receive, um, and ultimately the final ending. So here we're showcasing the notepad. This is where Lisa's thoughts will show up as the story progresses. Then we showcase the social media. Um, Random posts will come in, random people in the neighborhood, friends, etc., and your own posts, which you can scroll through and read. Again, as the story progresses, these automatically update. Within this app, in Chapter 2, you also receive messages, and then this is the main messaging app. This is where most of the story is told through text messages. You receive messages, you kind of simulate texting messages, which are predetermined, and then at certain important points, you have the choice of what you want to say, and those will kind of cascade down and affect the rest of the choices of the game. So this is just showcasing that texting functionality. And coming up here is the first kind of tutorial choice that we made to show the player how it works. This choice itself is not particularly important. However, the other ones um, not only affect the outcome of the game, but they affect the choices that you end up seeing later on. So even choices that you make in Chapter 1 will have an effect on what you are able to see and decide in Chapter 2 and 3, and ultimately what ending you receive. So as this plays through, I'll skip through to pass time. Once you hit a certain point in the story, you're able to pass time, which just kind of progresses things along. A little splash art. Um, After that, new entries will come in, the story progresses, and you keep going along like that through most of the game. I'll just kind of skip through. And this is just the introductory chapter. We have two more after this, which are longer. This is exposition for chapter 2. So we'll go ahead and move on. Would you like to talk about our sponsor?
Yep. About our sponsor, which is PBJ Learning. They are based in Austin, Texas, and Chicago, Illinois, and they are dedicated to human trafficking education. So this is something that they offer on their website. It is 100% online, kind of course modules system where you go through their education and then answer their assessment and complete. Once you complete the whole course, you can receive this certificate of mastery for um, basically showcasing that you have completed this human trafficking essentials course. And specifically, Billy Joe Kane, one of the co-founders of PBJ Learning, was our sponsor. We worked with him because he had plenty of games industry experience over 30 years, and we believed that he would be able to lead us to learn about a lot of stuff about the games industry and we feel like this is a good cause to work for.
Yeah, I would also like to add, he was super passionate about this project. When we first started working with
Yeah,
him,
he is.
he had us take his course for free so that we'd be up to date with the
Hmm.
actual knowledge we need to know. He's worked really well with us, taught us a lot about um, industry standards and such. Helped us write our contract and all that, and so he's been great to work with.
For sure. And this is what we spoke before. This is the Chat 2023, their original VR game. So in this game, you put on your VR headset and you kind of explore the scenes of Lisa's room, Lisa's where she ended up living at once she was became a victim of human trafficking, and just it's a whole first person perspective of experience where you can interact with seeing objects and listen to her story. And on the right here, this is called an Appleseed box, which is a whole kit that contains the VR headset and the game. Which, if you go to PBJ's site, you could sign up to have one of these sent to you for free to experience the VR game. So all this to made to spread awareness about human trafficking dangers. As for our project goals, upon conversing with our client, we've decided that he wanted a 2D web-based game to host on his website, and obviously the main goal is to educate on the dangers of human trafficking, but also we want it to be attractive to um, website viewers and would encourage them to sign up to his course and his email mailing list.
Yeah.
Some other specifics that he wanted was it was to be compatible for all devices and to connect with people to leave them with an important message. And as for the devices, it's our game should work on mobile as well. So not only not only can you play it on PC, you can also play it on mobile devices or tablets.
Yep. And I would add, I guess just the point being that a VR game is, even though there's the Appleseed box that they could send you, VR is not for everyone, and it's a lot harder to get into. And
Uh huh.
Billy Joe's ultimate goal is he wants as many eyes on this as possible. He wants to spread the word as much as possible. So having something that anyone can just log on really quick and play and get some meaning out of is what he was going for, and so that's what we created.
And let me talk a little bit about game design. So again, to reiterate his needs, most importantly, um, it's to get emails and get users to engage with the course content. But um, so what I thought would be interesting was since we have this whole VR story established already, I thought it would be interesting to see the whole story leading up to it. So that led us to come up with this idea of having this whole prequel to a game and having the player play as the main character Lisa and going through her phone, basically just texting and interacting with her friends and family and seeing just how human trafficking can happen in this modern day and age. And one of the main inspiration for the whole gameplay mechanic, as well as the whole visuals and UI inspiration, was this image on the right. This game called Needy Streamer Overload. This was one of the main inspiration for our web game. And some other inspirations as well is this game called Emily is Away with a chat function, as well as Simulacra on the right, the phone UI inspiration. And as for the choice of game engines, here at Purdue, we are in our game dev course, we are experienced with Unreal Engine, but we thought it didn't fit our needs because Unreal Engine is really mainly geared towards visual effects and hardcore 3D stunning visuals, and that's really not really what we're needing right now. We really need just a simple web game hosting on a server, and it's lightweight, so anybody can play on any device. So we looked to other game engines such as Unity, Cocos, and Play Canvas, but we ultimately ended up choosing GDevelop because it was easy to use as it used visual scripting, and the whole web hosting process is all built in and is easy to use.
Okay, so I'll talk a bit about project planning. Um, so our first semester was spent mostly talking to our client, getting an idea, taking his course, getting an idea of what he's all about, what he wanted. And we kind of ended up bouncing around quite a few game ideas before we settled on our design that we just talked about. One being point and click, kind of choose your own adventure game. And these are just things that he had thought about that we could maybe do. We also had been talking with other companies like Chasm because he was considering doing some kind of loyalty program on his website, and so we were kind of looking into the logistics on how we could integrate with that and if that would be a good idea at all. So
Yep.
much of our time first semester was just spent communicating and ideating and planning. And so, as you can see here from our production timeline, we pretty much started towards the end of last semester and the majority of this semester. Um, just started planning out the game once we settled on the design, kind of seeing what it was going to take. Learning the new game engine. We'd never used it before.
Yep.
We'd had experience with asset creation in Adobe and such. Um, Not a whole lot of experience writing, so that was another thing that we had to kind of work harder on because we wanted to make sure that the writing would fit in with the script, and I'll talk more about that later. But we ended up kind of starting out with an idea to make 4 chapters and then downscaling it to 3 once we started production, just so we realized that would make more sense. So on the left here, you can see we kind of split up 3 2-week periods for each chapter, chapter 1, 2, and 3, and then leaving time at the end for bug fixes, final polish, packaging, which is where we're at right now. And I would also want to add that we use Jira, Atlassian Jira software for tracking sprints. That helped us get started for sure. Just kind of breaking up tasks, seeing what really needed to get done to make this a success.
Mm.
Um,
And
yeah,
here's,
want to talk about?
okay, I guess here's a look at the project planning process. We used Canva to visualize the whole chapter flow, and as you can see, so for chapter one, we've seen it a little bit in our demo video, but so you start out with a exposition text, and then um, the player opens the phone interface. They get text from Sophia. They get text from Emily. Blah blah blah. That's basically the whole flow of the chapter one. And I guess look at one interesting thing to look at is the choice in the middle of chapter one. The so your neighbor, so Lisa's neighbor, Jenny, texts you about um, needing help to from you to babysit her kids, but at the same time, your friend Emily texts you about going to the mall and to see a movie. So what do? You could decide to help Jenny babysit, or you could not help her and just go to girls' night at the mall. And this was part of uh, for game design what we envisioned for the game, which is basically coming up with choices that felt that they mattered to the whole story. And we feel like we did a pretty good job in our limited scope and time frame. This is just one of several choices that would matter in the whole runtime of the game, and we will see more later on in later chapters. You'll just have to play it and see if you like it. I hope you like it.
So the writing, so like I said earlier, we didn't have a whole lot of experience writing coming into it, and of course, we were just, I mean, first semester introduced to kind of the whole realm of this and the education aspect.
Yep.
So luckily, Billy Joe has his own PBJ on a VR script that he gave us. So I'll actually tab over to that real quick. So he gave us our own version of this script. We were able to look through. This is basically has everything written that you would see in the VR game. And so this was really helpful because this is where we got what was already established in this universe that we could come back and reference. So we read through all of this, take out key points, and made sure to implement that in once our story got to that point. So, for example, there's parts that talk about when she ran away, and Banks is the character's name of the predator. When they met and when she snuck out, and so this was kind of key because this is kind of a key moment in our game, at least for which ending. And we wanted to get the details right so that if someone were to play our game and go into his game, everything would match up and the world would seem more whole, I suppose. Um, but other than this was mainly our main inspiration, and of course, um, reading and taking his course. And other than that, was just kind of cooked up and made in house. Um, and then, just using documents to plan out the script, which then we would go
Mhm.
back, highlight up as Jason would implement it into the game, make little notes about coding, that kind of stuff. And yeah, so
Uh,
initial asset creation. We kind of started this project with our roles swapped. I set up most of like the base programming for the engine, was just kind of learning that. Jason was making some assets, and we ended up swapping in the middle because we realized it made more sense. So these are some of the first assets that we made using GIMP. Some
yep.
initial, icons that are still in use, some initial social media post ideas, that kind of stuff. And then here's a couple screenshots from the Adobe Illustrator file, which is absolutely overflowed with things. This is the social media post update here. Have some icons over here. This is a snippet of chapter 2 text, so this is kind of how we did it. We got our bubbles and then our text blocks. Literally made every individual bubble, grouped them up, exported them out, and then imported them into the game engine where they go, size them up, shape them, and then um, script them in. So this is pretty much our asset creation workflow. Um, so go into programming.
Yep. As for programming, as we said, GDevelop uses visual scripting. So basically, what that means is they already have a lot of functions pre-programmed, and all we have to do as programmers, users of their product, we all we need is to drag them out and assign variables and such. So how the chapter flows through how the whole process of the chapter flows is how it works is basically there's this variable called texting state, and whatever that state is at, it's a number variable. So once every single text message increments that number, and as the number increments, more text shows up, and some of it is NPC text, some of it is yours. But once you reach the end, um, you can set up another scene, another texting scene, another variable in that scene. So you could switch over to another text. Basically, that's basically how the whole game works. Um, it's not terribly complicated code, but it's definitely a lot of elbow grease for sure, because you have to just go in and script, following the flow. And overall, we feel like GDevelop worked pretty well. And as we said before, since it got all the web hosting stuff also built in, um, we should be able to get that ported over. No hassle at all.
Yeah, and I guess I would like to add about GDevelop is that there was definitely some with like the core programming that I did. There was definitely some limitations since it's still in development, and developers of GDevelop are always updating it, which is actually great. And we could
Hmm.
use the forums to kind of ask them questions and see what people are saying. But just the way that it is visually scripting and the way that scenes, kind of sections of the game work, they don't like technically they don't save progress like a normal engine would. So we had to use all these variables to kind of manually track the state of the game and keep it preserved.
Mm.
So just figuring out things like that and making it the most efficient blocks that we could reuse for every scene that we were going to make. That was just some of the problems that we overcame doing this.
Yep.
And here's some more.
Yep.
S-
So obviously some problems we already mentioned before, but mostly it's stemming from just having to learn a new engine, and having some game design uh, troubles, I guess. Figuring out whether or not these choices mattered enough,
mhm,
while also not taking uh, too much runtime or development time as well.
right.
And obviously, there's always going to be bugs every time when you're trying to program, and that's just how it is. Um, the client our Billy has been very nice in communicating with us with what he needs, and but mainly because we haven't really done any website hosting we don't really have experience in that field, so that was definitely something that we are still one problem we faced in
Yeah.
our development time frame.
Yep. For sure.
And as for our next steps, um, as we said, this is our basically the last week of our development time frame. So we're really just focusing on getting everything polished, getting every game breaking bug squashed
Yeah.
out, and hopefully the whole game experience can just be so silky smooth, and we can help Billy get this game going. One thing that our client Billy has mentioned was so in the future he would possibly like to translate the game to a couple other languages, and we do have some ideas on how to do that. As we said in our asset creation slide, our assets are um, created separately in Adobe, so like the text and the bubbles, and then they're exported as a PNG themselves. So we might need to. We have an idea of possibly rethinking another method of doing it. Maybe we could somehow do it in the GDiv engine
Mhm.
instead to um, get the other languages in the game as well. But that is currently out of scope of our current time frame. But eventually, we might think of doing that.
Right. Yeah. In the future, it's since it is like a web hosted game, and I foresee us still having contact with Billy Joe since he was so helpful. We'll just be helping to update it and support the game as it is hosted. It's not too difficult to make changes, and he did express that he wants to be able to edit it. So there will probably be a time where we kind of more in depth explain to him exactly how everything works, so that on his own he can go in and make changes as he sees fit. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, that's most of our next steps. I think that's about it. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I feel good here. Yep.
Yep. I s-
Thanks for listening.
yep. Thank you. I would say, in conclusion, this is it was it's kind of a unique project. It was definitely more of a serious vibe. When you tell people you're
Hmm.
making a game about human trafficking education, it's a little hard to explain. But like we said, Billy Joe is super passionate about this. I think he has really good ideas on how to get this, how to raise more awareness for this, and so we were really happy to work on this project to really,
Yeah,
and not just a game, but to have something that kind of means something more. And I think we're pretty happy on how it turned out, and hopefully it'll be an impactful experience for other players. So I think
for
that's about
sure.
it.
It was a great experience.
Yep. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.